All right, so let's talk about Trello because this is what you guys are going to be using to manage your project. So you should have an email from me inviting you to the team board. Okay, so once you get that email, open it up. You're going to go to your team. This now is going to show, yeah, um, it's going to show you all the team members that are on here. You should be able to go into the boards and see the boards. Now, I'm going to have a couple boards. Let me open it up. I'm going to have a couple boards that are set up that you guys are going to copy. Okay, so for Computer Programming 4, there's a couple things that we're going to be using. So the first one, right here, your last name, first name, and then your game name. You guys are going to go open that up. You are not going to start editing this one. You need to make a copy of it. Okay, so that's my template. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to click on the Show menu. Okay, you're going to go down to More. You're going to go down to Copy Board. Okay, you click that. You are going to leave it in that CP4 folder, but you're going to replace this. So your last name, it's going to be like this, Walters underscore Gabriel underscore, and then the name of your game. So in my case, Red Beard Run. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click Create. And now it gives this board. If you went and you checked in that team group, you would see this board there. So if we look in the team group, see right there. This is your board. This is where you're going to put all your stuff. Now you have your game design document that you spent all that time filling out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting it in terms of sprints and sprint backlogs. So we're going to start creating some stuff. So there's a couple things that we need to look at. On this board, we have multiple lists. Each one is a list. So we have cards that are going to go down in each list for stuff that we need to do. We start in the sprint backlog. That's going to be everything that you're doing for your entire game. Your current sprint, what you're going to do is you're going to look through the stuff on the order of precedence, and you're going to start moving some items that you're going to do for your current sprint. For us, our current sprint is going to be 2 weeks. So you need to plan on having that entire list done by the end of the year. However, each sprint, you're going to have to budget your time wisely. You don't want to pack in so much stuff that you don't end up finishing. That's going to cause you issues. The goal of this is having good time management. So what you're going to do is you're going to start filling these in, and I'll give some examples. Start filling these in, and then you're going to identify the things that you want to use for your current sprint. You're going to project out the amount of time that you believe it's going to take. Now, you are going to have to plan in time to be able to do research and to have coding done. Once you're done with that and you have those cards moved in there, you will move them into to be checked by a peer. You just have somebody else have an eyes on to make sure that there's no issues. If there is, you need to fix it. If there's not, you can go ahead and move them into the review. The review is for me. I'm going to review, and if it's done, let's say it's 100% done, I move it into done. If it's 80% done and you got a couple bugs, I'm going to move it into done and create a linked card and put it back either in your backlog or your current sprint, depending on what type of card it is and issues that I may foresee is happening with your cards. If your card that you put in review looks like you have not done anything, or let's say about 40% or less, I'm going to put it back into your current sprint, and that's what you need to do because you still didn't meet your task. Okay? Items that are left at the end of a sprint is going to grade you down significantly for bad project management. Okay? So let's go kind of looking in. in your team folder, we also have user story examples. So if you go into this can give you ideas if you're having a hard time for writing up all the stuff that you have to do. Now, from your game design, let's say that we were looking at implementing, let's say, in-game currency. So let's look at currency. Now, currency or any of the user stories, it needs to be in terms of what the user can experience. So yes, there are some background coding and stuff, but we want to be able to see a visual when we're looking at the game of what's happening. So this currency, if you're using this as a feature in your game, there are a number of checklist items. Interface element that shows current currency, so you need something in your HUD when the player collects money, having the amount go up or down when the player loses money, having it go up or down. Can the currency not go below 0? How are you dealing with that? If the user attempts to do something that costs more currency than what you have, does it just cancel the option? You have to deal with those issues. So these may not be the only test cases or acceptance criteria, but these are the ones that if you were using this feature, I'm going to be looking for those things. So let's say that you look through these user stories because you didn't have it written up. So you wanted to copy this, okay? So we would go to the actions and we're going to go to copy, okay? Now we can choose to keep the checklist, which is this right here, and the labels, which is this. And then we can choose the board that we want to move it to. So I want to move it to my board, okay? And I want to put it in my sprint backlog. So I can go ahead and create that card. What we're going to do though is for the title, depending on what milestone you're trying to do this as. So let's say this is your first sprint, that's milestone 1. So I'm going to go ahead and title it milestone 1 underscore currency. And we're going to go ahead and click create card. Now we can go back into our board and look at it. So in here, now I have that milestone currency copied into my board. And I have these items. If I wanted to add another item, I can go ahead and add an item. As I'm doing things, so let's say I start coding it, and I need to keep notes for where I'm at. The comment section actually ends up being pretty useful. So if that's part of your current sprint, let's say able to collect currency, but HUD is not displaying properly. Okay, so you can give yourself notes. So when you open it back up, you know what your issue was that you're having, if this is something that you're coming back to. So when we are ready to work on it, we put it in our current sprint. This is what we're working on. When we're finished with it, we're going to move it to have somebody else just give a quick eyes on to make sure that we hit all of these criteria, okay? If, let's say, your sprint, you had only 1 or 2 items and you finished only 1 item, that's not going to look good for you, especially because your backlog is probably going to have around 100 to 150 cards that you have to clear out by the end of the year. You have to have an alpha build, a beta build, and your game needs to be mostly finalized by the time we get to the end of the year, okay? So your cards, as you're assigning them, you do not want to end up having too much time where you're not working hard enough, but you don't want to overburden yourself and not be able to accomplish your task. So let's say that we get the peer, he looked at it, you had him look at your game, you had him try it out, he gave you some feedback, you go ahead and write that feedback on what that is. So now HUD is displaying correctly, can only collect currency is not used for too expensive items. Okay, and as we're doing stuff, you know, we can start checking off things. Maybe we didn't check for this. So, you know, the peer, he ends up finding this at the currency. He finds out that he can go below 0. So let's say, like Sonic, you get hit with the ring, you get hit while you have rings and you lose the rings. He dies when his rings are at 0. But if you're not testing for that, if you're not checking for that, what happens to the player? How are we dealing with that? So you want to write those comments. You want to figure it out. Once it's done, you move it in the review. Okay, and that's when I'm going to start looking for at the end of your sprint. I'm going to start looking for your APK to play your game and looking for your code so I can start seeing that you have that stuff. I'm also looking for your screencast of you showing all of those pieces that there is your currency feature built into your game. I can see all of those things. You're showing me those things. You're showing me the code of how you implement it, and it give me an explanation of how you done it. Okay, if that's good, and I review it, I'm going to go ahead and move it to the done. You don't need to touch anything that's in the done. That's good. If I feel that you have it mostly done, I'm going to go ahead and create another card. So I could create another card by, let's say, I'm going to write bug currency issue. I'll go ahead and create that card. Currency can go below 0. All right, so I create that bug. I am now going to link that card to this one so that you see it even though it's in the done, because I see that you're 80% of the way done with it. I just want you to fix that small bug. I'm going to attach a link to the card. Let me do it again. Okay. So I attach a link to the card. I can make it two-way, so that instead of just clicking on this card to bring you to the other card, I can connect it both ways. Okay, so when we have it that way, and this one is in the done, now you can see, hey, what is this card actually attached to? Oh, this is my currency one. Okay. So if I give you comments on it and create another card, I may end up giving comments in here as I'm looking through some of your stuff, or I may end up writing it as a whole card and attaching it, and then that's what you're going to end up having to address. Okay.